So I have come to the conclusion that I am an anxious person. Hi, I'm Jasleni, and this is Magic, Business, and Pendejadas. This video series podcast is all about magic, business, the fuckery of life itself, and everything in between. And today I want to talk about anxiety, self-sabotage, introduce to you one of my paintings from my oracle deck, Caribeña Oracle, and then wrap things up with a reading at the end. So let's start off with anxiety. I'm a Latina, I'm Dominican, daughter of immigrant parents, and so I grew up sort of hearing, and it wasn't necessarily like that somebody said this to me, but more so that I picked this up somewhere along the way, that anxiety or depression or any kind of mental health issue meant you were crazy. And I know that that's a really triggering and upsetting word, but I'm just trying to explain like what my background, my upbringing looked like. There was just this idea that it was unacceptable, and like we don't do that. We don't get anxious. We don't experience that. That's not us. And I think also somewhere along the way, I picked up this idea that anxiety specifically looks like big panic attacks. It looks like big collapsing to the floor, breakdowns. And sure, like that is absolutely the truth for some people. And for those experiencing that, I send you so much love and hope that whatever you're going through, you find your way. But that's specifically not what I'm talking about here. What I'm referring to is the type of anxiety, like mine, that is a lot more quiet. And as I say that, I'm acknowledging that in my mind, the mental clutter can sometimes be really loud. But from the outside looking in, I'm pretty stoic, or no, not stoic. I'm pretty calm. Like I'm not somebody who you would necessarily know is really anxious in that moment, even if inside I'm freaking the fuck out. And so I want to talk about that. Like sometimes anxiety looks like running around, kind of restless, not sure what to do next. And so it's unproductive and you don't really get much done. Sometimes for me, anxiety looks like being a couch potato and being glued, like melted into the couch and watching 17 episodes of whatever, whether I'm enjoying it or not, just because like my brain shut down and I'm not going to accomplish whatever it is that I was going to do. Sometimes anxiety for me means overeating. It means grabbing that bag of potato chips or whatever to fill in the space before my next task, or to fill up the boredom, or just like quiet the mind, right? And I do want to talk about self-sabotage, and I'm seeing some overlap because that's totally a way that self-sabotage also shows up. But anyways, anxiety, I think another issue for me is this question of, well, what the hell do you have to be so anxious about? Like you have a home, you have a family, you're healthy, you have all of these blessings in your life. And the problem with that question is that it dismisses whatever your issues are. It puts you in a place of comparison to people whose situation is totally different. It also like in some ways victimizes the people who are in a worse off situation. And again, it's just like this weird comparison that's not serving anybody, and that also disrespects and dismisses your real life experience. So I don't know, let me volunteer myself as an example, and I'm just gonna be really vulnerable here. Let me volunteer myself as an example of a regular ass person, whatever that means, who experiences anxiety and who experiences this just from like everyday life stuff. And I don't even know if even that's fair to say, because while anxiety is a universal experience, my life is my life, and the nuances and the specifics of my life may be completely different from yours. But in preparation for this conversation, I made a list of all the things that make me anxious, and I'm just gonna very quickly share these with you in hopes that it will like encourage you to give yourself permission to be anxious about whatever the heck you have going on without judging yourself, right? Like, let's start with acceptance first. Like, accept that you are anxious about this, and then we can talk about some tools to work through that anxiety. But first, let's just lay the groundwork. So I am anxious about being perceived as a jack of all trades and an expert at none. And as an entrepreneur, as a graphic designer, as a coach, as an artist, there's all these different things that I do, and I've always been afraid of coming across as an expert at none. Oh, that feels like its own conversation in itself, because why aren't we allowed to be really good at multiple things? But anyways, there's this like anxiety around how I am perceived. Okay, next, being perceived as pushy, salesy, desperate. This is going back to being an entrepreneur. I'm supposed to be selling myself, talking about myself, talking about my service, talking about my products, and like being consistent in that, and at the same time doing it in a way where it's really authentic and it's really fostering connection without coming across as too pushy. And so finding that balance, I get anxious about that, because I get excited and I want to talk about all the things that I'm doing, and I want to connect with you and make magic with you. But yeah, like sometimes it's hard to do that without being pushy. So that's something that I get stressed about. I get anxious about the promises I make to myself that I don't keep. Like when I say, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna do yoga, and then I don't do it. So then I get into like self-judgment and beating myself up about it, right? The domino effect. The expectations that my parents have for me. Chasing money makes me anxious. Resting and feeling like I'm not being productive, that makes me anxious. Wanting to always be in a state of growth. I am big on transformation, on my personal evolution, on striving to be better than I was yesterday. And that is a beautiful, inspiring thing that fuels me. And it does sometimes really serve me, but sometimes it's debilitating and a hindrance. Keeping up with appearances, there's a theme, a pattern there. Ads on Facebook telling me what I do or don't need in order to be successful. I mean, there's just like all these things. Being a homeowner. This is one thing that makes me really anxious. Thinking about stupid things that I did or said years ago, and then reliving that experience in my mind, and like reigniting the regret and the embarrassment around those things. Like, instead of just letting things go, things that like people probably don't even remember, and I decide, oh, I'm gonna stay up all night thinking about that one time in that class 10 plus years ago when I raised my hand and I said this, and I should have said, like, stupid shit like that. Okay, putting that away, and transitioning into self-sabotage. Well, actually, one more thing about anxiety. We can't control the thoughts that come into our head, right? Like things are just going to pop up. We can't control whether we get anxious. We can't control whether our minds or our bodies react in that way in any given moment. And so accepting that I'm somebody who sometimes get anxious, that alone is so medicinal. To just accept I am somebody who sometimes gets anxiety is huge. Like if you can just do that, huge. Now, what we can do is practice different things, use different tools to soften or to work through the anxiety in that moment so that we can move on faster. Again, we can't control that. Oh, I just remembered a really embarrassing moment from years ago. Now I'm flustered and flushed and blushing and freaking out. Like we can't control that just popped up, but we can choose to pause and maybe practice a breathing exercise to help us more quickly shift out of that. We can choose to do yoga, to exercise, to go for a walk, to call a friend, to take action in the moment to move past that. I'm thinking about, like my therapist said that to me. You can't control whether you're an anxious person. You can only control what you do in that moment. And even that, having a therapist, like so much stigma around seeking the support that you need when you need it, because there's this sort of misconception that you have to be in this, again, horrible place in order for you to want to talk to somebody, to just process whatever you're going through. We give so much emphasis to dieting and exercising and taking care of our physical wellness without acknowledging much how the mind controls the body and everything else, and how maintaining a healthy mind is so important. Now I want to shift to self-sabotage because I see it show up so much in myself and in my clients. And self-sabotage, especially in combination with anxiety, can look like not keeping the promises you make to yourself. You know that going for a walk every day is going to make you feel so good. It's going to give you space. It's going to help you recharge. It's going to get your body moving, which feels amazing. It's going to allow your mind to reset so you can come back fresh to whatever it is that you're doing. Like, not taking really good care of ourselves, even with something as simple as just going for a walk, totally a form of self-sabotage and totally an antidote to whatever's making you anxious in that moment. Something as simple as a walk. Or another way that self-sabotage shows up is in aiming for perfectionism and wanting to make everything perfect and obsessing over the little details, and then worse off, like not even doing it at all, because if it's not perfect, then I'm not going to do it. Giving up, because if it's not perfect, nope, I can't put it out there. Ooh, I recognize myself in that, and it's taken me such a long time to adapt this done is better than perfect attitude. Like, just get it done. Getting it done is better than perfect, because really perfect doesn't exist. And then the third way, and I'm sure there's plenty other, but the third way that I've seen self-sabotage show up for me and for my clients is in taking on too much and being an overachiever, in signing up to get that certification for that extra skill when you already have a ton of skills that you can apply today to your business or to your life or to your whatever. Signing up for that extra class, signing up for that extra activity, just adding more to your plate, whatever that looks like for you. And I'm thinking from my own personal lens, I'm thinking as an entrepreneur, but you don't have to be an entrepreneur for this to be applicable to you. Being an overachiever because you have something to prove, because you're constantly chasing the next thing without taking the time to enjoy the victory of whatever you just accomplished. Let me say that one more time for those of us who really like know what I'm talking about, who feel this. Rushing to the next thing without taking a moment to pause and appreciate the victory of what you just accomplished. That is a huge, maybe not so obvious way that self-sabotage shows up. So let me reel this in, let me wrap this up. Here's the homework, soul work. If you pre-ordered my Oracle deck, or if you've purchased my Oracle deck, then you know that in here every single card comes with soul work, meaning homework to support you in taking inspired action, to support you in doing the things that you know you should be doing that you're not doing, or doing the things that you didn't even think of, that once you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, that would be amazing for me. That soul medicine, that's what I'm talking about. So here's the soul work. Look for ways you can simplify, take things off your plate, number one. Number two, look for things that you can celebrate. What do you have to celebrate right now? Where do you feel victorious? Where do you feel like, wow, I did a really good job? Can you even acknowledge and give yourself that love and praise for, like, yeah, you did a good job. I did a good job. I did a good job. I did a good job. Can you even say that? Like, take a moment to express pride and gratitude towards yourself. Number three, acknowledge I get anxious sometimes, or I get depressed sometimes, or I get whatever sometimes, and like, end of sentence. We don't need to judge it. We don't need to make it mean anything. We don't need to like hurry up and try to fix it. Like, just acceptance, radical acceptance. And then if you are experiencing anxiety, can you experiment with different practices that are going to be supportive to you in that moment? Maybe that means calling a friend, getting a therapist, going for a walk, getting a coloring book and a latte and coloring away, or having some playful introspective time with an Oracle deck like La Caribeña or otherwise, right? I'm a big fan. I have 40 plus Oracle decks. I love them. That's the conversation. Is in many ways it's a conversation of how can I be kinder to myself in this moment. And that brings me to one of the paintings from my Oracle deck. All of the artwork in my Oracle deck was hand painted, and then I took pictures of that, added a little bit of like digital touches here and there, and then that's how I made the cards for my Oracle deck. This is the artwork that I used for the neglect card of the deck. And so this painting and the card and like the medicine of this artwork is all about the questions of how can I be really good to myself? How can I care for myself? Where in my life am I being neglectful? What areas of my life are yearning for more love and more attention? How can I water the wilted plants in my life, right? What tools are available around me right now that I can tap into? And so I'm excited about sharing this painting right now, because every single week I am releasing one Of the 50, there's 50 cards in the deck. So 50 paintings that went into the creation of the deck. And every week I am sharing one painting a week and making it available on my website, jasleni.com, for those of you that want to collect these one-of-a-kinds, super soul medicine paintings. And this one specifically serves as a reminder of, you know, that check-in of, am I being really loving towards myself right now? And how can I bring in more of that into my life if I'm seeing that I'm not being really loving and kind and generous towards myself? So just quickly wanting to share that piece. And now I'm going to close this conversation with a quick reading. And I'm just going to ask, I'm going to close my eyes and do my opening prayer and ask La Caribeña, the spirit of this oracle deck, to share your wisdom with me, with us, and for whatever that comes through to be easily and accurately understood, and for it to be for our best and highest good, and inevitably for that of those around us. So here's my question. In regards to anxiety, self-sabotage, letting that go with a beautiful, healthy dose of self-acceptance and self-love, what advice or guidance do you have for us to help us manage that anxiety and help us rise into our best selves? Okay, that's my question. So in regards to anxiety and self-sabotage, what guidance do you have for us to help us let that go and rise into our best selves right now? Okay, let's see. Ooh, sisterhood. The sisterhood card came up. Okay, so I think this one's really obvious. Lean into your community. Lean into the people around you who support you, who cheer you on, who offer you unconditional love, who tell you the truth when you need to hear it, who don't enable self-sabotaging behavior, the people who are going to keep it real with you and empower you and lift you up. And if you don't feel that you already have that sisterhood or that sense of community, find it. Go out there and find your tribe. Maybe you join a book club. Maybe you join a membership of like-minded people. Maybe you join me and my membership at the Amarillo Society. Maybe you sign up for a local class or volunteer. Look for ways to connect with like-minded people who share similar interests and nurture those relationships so that you can uplift and empower them, and in return receive that same energetic exchange. Here's the sisterhood card, and let me grab the affirmation for you from that card. So I'm not going to read the whole message, all of the wisdom from this card, because I just gave you a snippet, but here's the affirmation that you can say out loud if you want to work with the magic of the sisterhood card, which is, my sisters inspire me to grow, evolve, and embrace the fullness of my authentic self. My sisters inspire me to grow, evolve, and embrace the fullness of my authentic self. And if the word sister or sisterhood doesn't quite land for you, my people, my tribe, my peers, my friends, my allies, whatever, modify it to make it right for you. The words, the logistics of it are not the thing that matters. It's like the intention of it that matters. So soak up that magic. I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you for hanging out. Be kind, be brave, be ridiculously you.